Hello, everybody. Welcome to round 12 of Grand Prix Washington, D.C. I'm Brian David Marshall. I'm joined by Pro Tour Hall of Famer Ben Stark, and we are watching Tim Rivera, Pro Tour top 8 competitor this season, playing against Brad Nelson, the former Player of the Year. Both players are 10-1. Ben, what are we looking at?
I mean, it looks like we're looking at a red-black versus a blue-white.
Pretty classic matchup from Theros.
Right, and so far it looks pretty traditional as the red-black comes out with an aggressive start.
Deathbellow
Raider,
yeah.
Yeah, and the blue-white hasn't done anything yet on the second turn.
Oh, so I mean, this is like the one thing that's kind of themey, consistent throughout the blocks is the Minotaur deck.
Yeah.
There are tools for it in all three packs.
Yeah, and it's a good deck. When you can put together the Minotaurs, the cheap aggressive ones, with some of those Minotaur lords, I mean, it can get really scary.
There's a Crackling Triton for Tim Rivera. And Nyxborn Rollicker. We got a 3-4.
And Tim made the play of just bouncing a 2-drop there, the Fellhide Brawler, I believe it is.
Yeah.
With Hubris in a turn, which is interesting, knowing you are, I mean, I don't know if he already had the 3-drop or not, but if you do, you know, the Cackling Triton stops the Fellhide Brawler. So, you know, I'd probably be inclined to hold on to Hubris, unless my hand had a just incredible late game. If it did, then maybe you just want to keep your life total high, and you're not really worried about it.
So the Deathbellow Raider has to attack, but it doesn't do any damage. And there's a Blade Tusk Boar.
Yeah, and interesting. Now seeing that he missed land drop 4, Tim, we know his hand is all gas, so that makes the Hubris play make more sense. We don't know what he has. Now we're starting to get to see his hand a little bit.
It looks like a Retraction Helix is in the future.
Yeah. So it doesn't look like an incredible late game. It looks like he has a Horizon Scholar that he's trying to get to. It might be pretty tough for him to beat that Blade Tusk Boar.
Yeah, he's gonna be able to steal a turn with it, you know, with the Retraction Helix.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's already 20-12. If he doesn't find some sort of removal for it, I don't know what that third card in his hand is, the white one. It looks like maybe a Mortal Obstinacy. Can't really tell.
I think it is, yes.
So, I mean, he doesn't have any answers to the Blade Tusk Boar, and it's only a 4-turn clock. Brad's still at 20. So certainly bouncing it once with Retraction Helix is not going to let Tim win this race.
Right.
He's got some time. He's even got the Horizon Scholar, which is Gride 2s. So I don't know if he has answers or not to the Boar. It looks like Tim is kind of considering if he wants to use the Retraction Helix now or wait till later.
Yeah, he's going to do it now.
Yeah, which makes sense. I mean, you're falling behind to that guy. The only reason to wait would be if you had a counterspell or something, because you could give yourself, not in your hand, but in your deck, because then you could give yourself another couple turns, draw the counter, and then bounce it after that.
But he gets kind of like 2 turns here to sort of find his answers.
Yeah, the problem is if he wants to attack, he's not going to have any blockers, so he's going to take additional damage from that Fellhide Brawler, which at this point is right, because you're on a 4-turn clock right now anyway, and the 2 damage doesn't really change that. So, I mean, I like Tim's play, but this is not a race that he's a favorite to win, I don't think.
Okay. Deathbellow Raider contractually obligated to attack whether it does damage or not.
He did gain some advantage there, basically 2 for wanting Brad. I think if he can answer this Blade Tusk Boar, he'll be in decent shape. Like I said, I just don't know if he's going to win the race against Blade Tusk Boar. I mean, it's 6. Like, right now he has the potential to deal 6, but the problem is then if he took 5, he'd be dead in 1 more attack.
Right.
So it's going to come down to, you know, does he have other things to drop? Oh, look! Look at that, just like that.
Your favorite card.
Yeah, I love Pin to the Earth out of these control decks. I mean, I'm not actually sure if Tim's decks a control deck, but
say, I don't know if a deck with Loyal Pegasus.
No, but still, it's a perfect answer right now.
So Mortal Obstinacy, he's actually not going to sacrifice it to kill the Rollicker.
Well, why would he do that?
Yeah, exactly.
It's already under armament.
Yeah.
But the Pin to the Earth for the Blade Tusk Boar just completely changed this game, because Brad was probably going to win the race, but had like nothing else going and was behind on board. So now Tim's winning the race easily now that the Blade Tusk Boar has stopped. Brad's going to have to find something else.
Oh, hi.
Oh.
Fanatic Amogus.
It's some damage, but, you know, it can be blocked. I mean, once again, I think the game is still firmly in Tim's hands at the moment. I don't think Fanatic Amogus really changed that. I mean,
another Ben Stark special, the Divination.
I mean, it's funny because I'm known more as an aggro player among my team because more often than not, I'm like preaching the value of early drops and things like that. But it really just comes down to your deck and what it's trying to do. Tim's deck here seems a little unfocused, but all the cards he's played are pretty good.
Right.
So, you know, it's kind of hard to really say. I haven't seen his whole deck. I've seen Horizon Scholar and Divination and Pin of the Earth control cards, and I've seen Vaporkin, Loyal Pegasus, you know, aggressive cards, Mortal Obstinacy, and then some bounce spells, which are going to be good in either deck, but are better in aggressive decks.
I was wondering if we'd see maybe a Mogus's Marauders or something like that out of Brad here.
Oh yeah, I mean, Brad could very easily win this game.
Kragma Warcaller.
Yeah, it's just that he needs more. Like, if Brad even has a direct removal spell, I think he might end this game. But the way this game is played, there's no reason to really think Brad was holding anything. And on board, Brad's not really winning the game. And we already know Tim's holding Horizon Scholar. So, I mean, if Brad's down one creature on board, which is basically the situation, and down a Horizon Scholar, he's probably not winning. But, I mean, Tim's at 4 life. So, I mean, there are a ton of cards that will win this game for Brad.
But right now he can't attack.
No, so he doesn't have any of them. He didn't have a removal, because if he had a removal, he could have killed the Cackling Triton, and the Pegasus couldn't block, and the game would have been over. So, I mean,
wow, there's another interesting card there I see in Tim Rivera's hand.
Yeah.
It is gold, and it is ageless.
Yeah, but Tim didn't even have a land, so once again, you know, Brad's just got to find something this turn, or he's going to die. But, you know, if he can, you know, there's a lot of cards you can do with Tim at 4. If he can Portent of Betrayal, Harness by Force, you know, just basically, I don't know, anything that does 4 damage. I mean, last turn would have been a lot easier because if he killed the Cackling Triton, the Loyal Pegasus couldn't block alone. This turn, I think a direct removal doesn't necessarily win him the game because he would have to kill both creatures. Either one blocking the Fanatic of Mogis would keep him alive. So I think Brad's in pretty rough straits. There are certainly cards that can win him this game.
Right.
Mogus's Marauder comes to mind.
Yeah, but he's just attacking with that, so...
So he doesn't have any of that.
Yeah. What could he have that he wouldn't... that he would pass the turn back and say, go, that would get him out of this?
I don't really know if there's anything. I mean, if he did draw like a random direct removal, since it doesn't win the game, he might use it on the Vaporkin, forcing so that he isn't dead and forcing Tim to attack with one of the ground guys if he wants to deal 2 with the Pegasus. But more than likely, Brad's going to concede when Tim attacks with the Flyers here. Oh, a little insurance. I'll find out if you've got anything.
Perplexing Chimera is magic.
Yeah, and that's a guy whose value's gone up a little. It's funny because it's such a polarizing card. Oh,
so that's on the stack.
Yeah, he must have the shock effect, Magma Spray, or Spark Jolt, I guess. It's funny how magic works. That card, I felt like when it first, it's a kind of such a polarizing card. Some people really seem to love it. Some people would probably call it unplayable. When it first came out in Born of the Gods, I didn't think it was that good because the format was still pretty aggressive. Now the format's a little bit more diluted, a lot more sloppy games and whatnot, so I like it a little bit more. Still not something I would ever first pick or something like that, but I think it's a fine playable now.
So every spell for the rest of the game becomes perplexing.
Yeah, well, this game is pretty much over now because if Brad does draw something good, Tim will just give him the Perplexing Chimera and take it. And if Brad doesn't do anything, he's dead on board. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure that Brad's locked out by the Chimera here.
Yeah, a really interesting showcase for the Chimera. You know, force Brad to show his hand.
Well, Brad would have kind of had to do that anyway, just when he attacked instead of pre-combat. And he might have even done it pre-combat because he might want to make Tim send a ground creature to be able to attack the Pegasus. Like if I were Brad there, I would have probably said beginning of combat, okay, Magma Spray your Vaporkin. So, I mean, the Chimera didn't actually do a whole lot that game unless Brad top decked the win on the last turn that he couldn't play because of the Chimera.
But he basically blanked any card.
It definitely makes you feel a lot more comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Brad may have only been on a couple outs there, so in reality, the Chimera didn't add it much win percentage to Tim.
So suddenly a Mogus's Marauders
is no longer an out.
It's nothing.
Right, but it's only really turning a 95%er into a 100%er, so it's not necessarily adding a lot of real value, you know? And like that's one of the main problems with the card is like if you're behind, the last thing you need is a 5-mana 3/3.
Right.
And if you're ahead, it can seal up a game. It can add some real value. But when you're only gaining percentage in games you're already winning, it's kind of hard for a card to be that great, you know? I judge cards a lot like that in Limited. How much will this do when I'm a little bit behind, you know?
Right.
That's what matters the most to me, because if I'm a lot behind, okay, I don't expect any one card to perform that well. But when I'm already winning, I'm not that concerned with how this card's going to perform.
Right. And then sort of, to some extent, what kind of top deck is this?
When I'm just a little bit behind.
Yeah.
You know, when they had a good draw, and I'm like, not out of the game, but I'm a little bit on my back foot, how does this card play then? That's what I want to know a lot of the time.
Like your Loyal Pegasus and Oresco Sun Guide, and they're like Ferrospan Trumper and something else, and you're like, well, what is this card going to do for me?
Yeah, it's just not going to help you when you're just barely losing. You know what I mean? I mean, a Chimera, like, you know, it's okay. I mean, a 3/3 is not nothing, but if it's going to be forced to attack or block, especially block the first turn you play it, 5-mana 3/3 is just not really an effective card.
Right.
It's an acceptable. Well, I don't even know if I should call it acceptable or not, but it's okay. It's something. But it's not very good. Like, you remember yesterday when we saw Yelger's Thassa not be very good as Calcano had good beat-down green draws? It's kind of similar to that in the sense that, like, I think everyone loves Thassa because of how powerful it can be, and it can be. But I don't think people really register that, you know, a 3-mana 3/3 can block when you're on your back foot, when you're on the draw first. A Thassa can add nothing and just watch you get ran over when you're on the back foot, as we saw as Calcano ran over Yelger yesterday. I think it's important to remember that there are more swingy cards and less swingy cards, and the more swingy cards are not always better than the less swingy cards just because they can be more powerful. A lot of times the meat and potatoes cards like the Nessian Coursers are actually better than these more powerful cards.
Well, Marshall and I got to talk about that when we watched the Ben Sachs the previous round, and he had all these kind of cute cards, and his opponent had like Ill-Tempered Cyclops, right? Just like a solid number 6 hitter.
Right. And those kind of cards really come through sometimes, because even when you're on your back foot, they're a decent blocker, they're relatively efficient. I particularly like the Cyclops because it has pretty high upside.
Yeah.
In the late game, it's a big guy. You know,
it was something that Ben just couldn't deal with in the 2 games he lost. It was just like, okay, you've got a 6/6 trampler.
Like a Hill Giant, I still consider acceptable. A 5-mana 3/3 might not be acceptable, but a 4-mana 3/3 is. And then in the late game, he's very powerful. So that guy is, you know, he's pretty solid.
So players are looking at their opening hands, and a little bit of scry action for Brad Nelson.
I love the scry lands. I thought it would have been kind of interesting maybe if they printed like common scry lands that come to play tapped and only had 1 kind of mana or something like that.
So Loyal Pegasus, potentially fast start for Tim Rivera, followed by the Death Bellow Raider.
Oh, Tim doesn't have blue, huh?
He does not have blue. He's got a Battle-Wise Hoplite. He's got a Metamind the Ageless. And same opening for Brad Nelson. Nyxborn Rollicker, get him for 3, but no third land for him either.
Yeah, this is interesting. And you know Brad probably... The Armament of Nyx again.
Armament of Nyx,
And you know Brad probably doesn't have a 2-drop either, because I doubt he would have played the Nyxborn Rollicker over another 2-drop, since it only adds 1 point of damage and makes his guy a good target for Armament of Nyx.
Right.
I imagine if he had had a Fellhead Brawler, any 2-drop creature, he would have just dropped it last turn.
Blue mana engaged. And you get a 3/2 flyer.
A great target for Magma Spray.
Yeah, immediately gets Magma Sprayed.
Kind of a no-brainer.
Leaving Loyal Pegasus alone again, naturally.
Yeah, that is a big drawback for Loyal Pegasus, but the thing I really like about Loyal Pegasus is it's unlikely you were going to do anything meaningful with 1 mana anyway.
Right.
So it's almost like a suspend card. It's like you play it for 1, you don't get value out of it right away, but when you do get value out of it, you didn't invest any mana in it, just a card.
And there's the Crackling Triton. We're seeing a lot of similar cards that we saw.
Game 1.
Game 1, yeah.
And Brad must have a lot of really expensive cards in his hand, because I know he doesn't really want to asphyxiate a 2/3 creature.
Right.
So if he's doing that, he probably has virtually nothing to drop.
He has a couple of asphyxiates in his deck.
Okay, so maybe he just has a second asphyxiate.
He may just have a second one, yeah.
But I do feel like if he had drops, he would have already dropped them. So I'm guessing his hand mostly has 5 drops, 6 drops.
I see a Farraghaz Giant.
I think he just drew maybe another Death Bellow Raiders. That's what it looks like. I think I do see a second asphyxiate, so I think you were right there. I think he used it because he had a second one. Now he's maybe debating between asphyxiate one of these like mediocre creatures or drop my Deathbellow Raiders.
I'm just saying if he does have 2 Deathbellow Raiders. And yeah, he asphyxiates the flyer. Or the flyer that's...
Yeah, and
asphyxiates both flyers almost.
once again, you know, if you have to asphyxiate these kind of creatures, you're not necessarily looking great.
And makes a giant supply line cranes.
Yeah.
Supply line cranes just embezzling from the supply lines, puts the counter on itself.
Supply line cranes literally sparked like 5 hours of debate in our playtesting before the last Pro Tour.
Right, Court just moved steadily down people's pick orders. You guys were on top of that by the Pro Tour.
Yeah, by the Pro Tour we were on top of that. I mean, you just need so much from expensive cards these days. There's really just no other way to say it. There's nothing wrong with a card costing 5 mana and limited. It just needs to do a lot for 5 to really be better than the 2 drops and 3 drops.
And you guys all have Stonewise Fortifier,
Arresto Swiftblade,
Swiftclaw, a Crone Mastiff.
Yeah, I would take all of those over the supply line cranes under most situations.
So Farragus Giant comes down. Tim says, yeah, I take 5. By the way, I've got Time Walk on a stick.
Yeah. And let's see if Brad used those asphyxiates so freely because he had another removal maybe, or if he's going to concede. Apparently not. But no, I mean, I know he used those because he did have 5 drops in hand and he didn't really have anything better to do. So Brad was in a tough spot there.
Wow. So Tim Rivera